This is ChangeMakers with Katie Gore, finding the right solutions for the affordable housing community.
This week's ChangeMaker is Krehmeyer, President and CEO of Beyond Housing. He's a visionary leader dedicated to transforming communities in St. Louis. With over 30 years at the helm, Chris, you have mobilized investments totaling $175 million to create thriving neighborhoods. And I am so excited to have you. Welcome to the podcast.
Great to be here, Katie. Thanks for having me.
It is a pleasure to have you on this platform. We really cover best practices across the nation. And I can't help but think about what you've done in St. Louis. But before we get started, tell our listeners and talk to me about how you got started in affordable housing, community development, and just talk about your on-ramp to this industry.
The on-ramp wasn't anything that was terribly intentional from the beginning. I got a degree in urban studies from Washington University here in St. Louis. My dad was an engineer by training, and my older brother was an engineer by education. So when I told my dad I'm going to get a degree in urban studies, I think his direct quote was, "What the hell is that? And what kind of job are you going to get?" I said, "Dad, I don't know, but that engineering gene just kind of flew right past me." So I took some classes in undergrad in urban studies, and I found great interest in it. And I got my fancy degree with my student loans, and I couldn't find a job. So my dad was like, "Yeah, I told you so." But I landed at the Housing Authority of St. Louis County. Um, and I worked there for 7 years, first in the Section 8 department, did that for 3 years, and then in the rehab department doing, some old mod rehab stuff, some rental rehab stuff, some urban homesteading, some phrases and programs from the past, and kind of cut my teeth on, kind of project development and, housing rehab stuff, as well as 3 years working in Section 8. I got to see, low income families every day, 8 to 10 families looking for a place to live. So I got both the humanity side of it, and then I kind of got a little bit of the, again, direct housing development side at the Housing Authority. And then this job came open in 1993. I was terribly unqualified in a whole bunch of different ways, but I had some of the skill sets they were looking for. But I think, as I think what happens sometimes in life, other people see things in you don't see in yourself at that point in your life. So I think some of the board of the organization back then saw some things in me that I maybe didn't realize that maybe I had some more potential. So they took a flyer on me, and 32 years later, I'm still here, still trying to do good work.
So are you able to describe to your family now what exactly that you do for your day job?
Yeah, my family knows pretty well after this. They can probably speak chapter and verse about all the work that Beyond Housing does and my role to that end. So yeah, no, it's kind of ingrained in the blood of the family now. Everybody knows, and everybody gives back in some form or fashion to our work and to work
Yeah.
similar to ours.
So you've seen housing change, starting in the Section 8 department, probably what, the 80s or something, if I do the math right.
86.
Yes. So how do you summarize, we're talking decades here of housing policy changes, neighborhood changes, but the need has remained the same. So summarize what it's been like over these decades in this journey, maybe what you could say has worked out really, really well, and then what still needs to be improved, if you could just generally speak.
Sure. Well, I look. Clearly, there have been a lot of wonderful individual things that have occurred, right? People have gotten a place to call home. Kids have gotten a place to grow up. Great opportunities have occurred. Neighborhoods have been strengthened. Home ownership has been created. So there's a lot of individual stories that are worth celebrating. But at the end of the day, there's no community level change today than there was 40 years ago. Same issues, and mostly the same community still exists and most likely have gotten worse. Um, so it's kind of this notion of, I don't know what business would keep doing the same things that doesn't work for 40 plus years, but they said, let's just keep doing it this way. So it's for us, it's about trying to understand that there's nothing more important than home. Where you come home to every night, the place you sit around the dinner table, the place you lay your head every night, where you talk about the day and plant your dreams. Um, but that equity of opportunity doesn't exist for everybody in this country. And the places you live, as the saying goes now, your zip code is more important than your genetic code relative to your future. And that's because we have not invested in both people and place in a significant way to really see systemic change and longitudinal change. And so, while the work that happens here in St. Louis and all across the country with all my peers is wonderful and important work, it just pales in the comparison of what needs to be done, both at the individual need level and at the community need level.
Mhm. And affordable housing policy is good economic policy. It's good for neighborhoods, good for individuals, but you're talking about a core need of people who need to know they're safe, need to know they belong, need to have a place to raise their kids, have a job, have an address. But, without throwing around like the technical terms, holistic housing or housing first, what is it that at beyond housing, your org, what is it that you guys are doing to accomplish some of that? Because I've read about your information. You and I have walked and talked about St. Louis and St. Louis County, but I'm a little bit familiar with what you're doing. But I want to hear it in your own words about this holistic approach that I think I hear you describing.
Sure. So again, for us, look, our mission is to strengthen families and transform communities to create a more equitable and prosperous St. Louis once and for all. So for us, when we think about that and we think about place, right, everything is interrelated and interconnected. So too often people want a simple solution, right? Well, isn't it just we got to do more housing? Or we got to improve education. We have to improve access to healthcare. We have to work on jobs. We have to work on economic development, municipal infrastructure. And our response is we have to do all of that because places that are successful don't worry about those things. Places that are successful have all those things that exist and again support the well-being of all the families that live there. And too often the communities that, folks in our industry serve, they don't have all those things. There's the lack of strong public education. There's grocery, there's food deserts, there's doctors deserts, there's entertainment deserts, there's all these things that don't exist, and those things again harm the well-being of again families that live there. So for us, as our name implies, yes, we do housing, right? Our rental portfolio now is 650 units plus another 186 that we're managing, and we're going to pick up another 90 or so in the next 6 months in terms of third-party property management, right? So we still do housing, and we do it really well. We just finished I think it's our 24th low-income housing tax credit project. So we know how to
Congrats.
do that, and that's wonderful. We also, in our community, which is the boundaries of a local school district, we've also rehabbed 1,500 existing owner-occupied homes, mostly owned by seniors. We're in the inner ring suburbs here in St. Louis. So again, we're investing in the housing stock in this community in a significant way, but we know that is not enough. So what we try to do then is several things. One, if you live in our rental housing, you get access to a variety of services. As our name implies, yes, it's housing, it's home, but it's more than that. So we have a case management system that allows folks to, again, reach out to our staff here, whether you want to become a homeowner, whether you want to send your kids to college, whether you want to manage your money better, you want to start a small business, you have your car broke down, you have a medical issue, whatever those things are that we know are real life occurrences that sometimes cause great harm to a family's journey to the life that they strive for. And our staff's role in that case is to be in that space for families, to support them along the way, whether it's crisis intervention or aspirational achievement. So again, we're trying to invest not only in the places where people live, but we also invest in those families as well. In addition to that kind of housing work, we also work with our local school district. As we said, our geography is not a municipality. It's not a neighborhood. It's a school district because that's where the kids are, and that's how the tax base is set. So for us, it's like this: our school district has to get better because it's struggled for many, many years, as have so many other school districts across the country, particularly when there's high degrees of poverty, whether that's urban, suburban, or rural. If you have high degrees of poverty, your schools tend to struggle. So I have
Right.
15 staff people embedded in the schools today. That 13 of them are called family engagement liaisons, and they're not about the teaching and learning in the classroom. They're just about crisis intervention kind of stuff. Kids are hungry. Kids need school supplies. Kids need clean clothes. We put washers and dryers in every school building. Um,
Glad.
Again, our school district requires school uniforms, right? Our kids are constantly, running out of school uniforms, damaging uniforms. So again, we stand in that space, and then we have crisis intervention funds for the families that again send their kids to the school district, and that could be rent assistance, utility assistance, other kind of assistance that we know constantly happens in families' lives. 100% of the kids who go to our school district receive free and reduced lunch, which means 100% of the kids live in poverty, right? So for us, it's again, how do we support the kids to give them the opportunity to take advantage of, again, what the school district has to offer from an educational experience standpoint? I have two other staff who work at the high school that run a match savings program. When the students and their families save a dollar, we match it with three for post-secondary education.
Wow.
We've sent over 450 kids to college, 140 college graduates to date. We have 13 master's degree. We have one doctor. Dr. Covington is doing his residency at the University of Wisconsin at Madison. We have one young woman in law school. We've invested close to $1 million in the match savings program to again support kids and their journey to post-secondary life, which can also include trade schools. We're not wed to traditional 2 and 4 year universities. So if kids have other aspirations and dreams, and from a trade school perspective, we'll support them along that journey as well. The persistence rate, which is the fancy word for how many kids stay in school, is over 70%, which is incredibly high for, again, the demographic
Wow.
population that we serve. So again, supporting kids, supporting families, supporting the school district relative to its success, and again, giving kids, the right jumping off point so they can again lead a successful life. We do
Mhm.
economic development work, so we own and operate a 4-screen, 375-seat movie theater. First run movies, cheapest ticket prices in St. Louis, 750 and 1050. We hire kids from the local high school who participate in our match savings program to work there. We have a senior building that's catty corner from the movie theater, and we have a senior who literally walks across the street to come to work. Um, Again, the idea here, intersectionality, right? It's a economic development project driven by the
Right.
voice of the community who said there's no
Right.
entertainment in our community. Could we help with that? It's a jobs opportunity, right? There are 3 full-time employees and 9 part-time employees who work at the movie theater. And again, it's this notion of, again, how do you create a sense of place? Across the
Mhm.
street from the movie theater is a food hall, 3 restaurants, and a pub. Again, all owned and operated by people of color who again look like our community. Our
Mhm.
folks said there's no place to sit down and eat other than fast food joints in our community. We love a place to sit down and eat, and we love it to be run by entrepreneurs that look like us. So we were able to build the building using new market tax credits, and then again, find the entrepreneurs to run their particular businesses. We also have a training facility on the bottom floor of the food hall as well, where we have a couple of trainers who again use our facility to train classes and to train individuals. On the second floor of the building, there's an employment agency that again works to try to find people a job, particularly in the home healthcare business. And we also help create a community kitchen where we're training young folks how to be in the culinary arts. We also have a health facility right next to the movie theater, which is we have both primary health care and urgent care by one of our local regional partners, an organization called Athenia, which is a FQHC. So they see over 6,000 patients a year, and said, we wish we'd have built bigger space because we can serve
Yeah.
more clients if we had more space. And then our local hospital system, the biggest hospital system in St. Louis, BJC, has a youth mental health service program in our building as well. And then on the top floor of that building, there's a county taxing body that generates about $40 million in taxes every year for mental health services for kids all throughout the St. Louis County region. We built our senior building that I mentioned that has a full service bank on the bottom floor. There was no there was, I believe, 23 payday check cashing places in our community, only 2 regulated banks. So we brought another regulated bank, to the community. It's a regional bank that this particular branch now is a $75 million branch. And I promise you that bank never thought this branch would do that well. But
Yeah.
again, it just serves that the notion that businesses can succeed in low mod communities if they have the right suite of products and they understand the needs of the community,
Right.
and treat folks with respect. Across the parking lot, we built a grocery store, full service grocery store, 17,000 square feet.
Oh my
Sadly, we've
god.
we've had 2 different operators, both who have failed. One
Okay.
was a regional firm called Save a Lot. Um, they were open for 7 years, and every year did better in sales, nearing 5 million in sales. But then the company got bought by a Canadian hedge fund, and that was
Mm,
kind of the beginning of the end. They kind of stripped out all the cash out of the business, and the Save a Lot brand now is mostly a wholesaler, not a retailer.
mm,
So it had nothing to do with community. Then we
right.
had a second operator, a regional operator, who opened up his fifth store in that particular building, and then sooner after he opened that business, his whole that store, his whole business cratered. And all 5 of his stores are now closed. Again, nothing to do with community. So we're trying to get that particular location reoccupied. We bought a church on the same street, a 30,000 square foot church, and want to turn it into an arts facility. So we're in the process of securing all the funding and hopefully another new market tax credit allocation to make that conversion happen. And then we have another small business center with a restaurant, a nail shop, and home to 2 other not-for-profits. So again, we're investing in the economic development activity of this particular community relative to, again, meeting the needs of what the community has
Mhm.
said that they wanted. We have 3 community health workers on staff focusing on asthma and diabetes, 2 of the kind of chronic diseases
Right.
that plague communities like ours, which is predominantly African American and has a high degree of people living in poverty, even though there are some wonderful pockets of middle class housing and middle class folks who just want the things around them to get better. And we have a forestry department. Um, we planted over 1,000 trees in our community. We've trimmed over 700 trees and taken down over 800 trees. We've redone almost 10 acres of land that was taken over by some of the invasive species like honeysuckle, and have replanted them with Missouri native plants to again prevent the overgrowth and to take care of some vacant lots in a way that is much more attractive and less onersome to some of the local communities. We're going to plant another 1,500 trees in the next 3 years. Again, the idea of place and what makes it successful is a lot of things, including trees, right? So again, when we
Mhm.
started this work with trees, I knew nothing about trees other than they were pretty. Um, what I've come to learn, as an example, right? A healthy tree canopy does a number of things. One, it prevents the heat island from happening in a lot of low income
Yep.
communities, right? Where again the neighborhoods are 2, 3, 4 degrees warmer than the rest of the region. And by having a healthy tree canopy, you can take toxins out of the air to reduce the problem with asthma. Asthma is the biggest reason why kids in our community miss school. Right,
Yeah.
so, and from a municipal standpoint, you have a healthy tree canopy, it saves the wear and tear on your streets, right? So you have
Mhm.
to replace, your streets, at a longer extension between those times, again, saving the community resources as well. So, again, as our name implies, we do a lot of different things intentionally. We try to link them all together in an ecosystem that says, again, if everything is interrelated and interconnected. So when you come to us through through a housing portal, we're also going to be asking about education and health and jobs. And the same thing is true if you come in through the education portal or the health portal. We're going to make sure we're trying to connect you to our work and the work of many of our friends.
You have touched on all of the core foundations for this broader work of community transformation. In fact, I'm glad you mentioned the trees. I was gonna ask you about landscaping as a way of fostering community, fostering sense of place. You hit on that. You hit on education, healthcare, mental health care, all of the big ones. The only one we didn't cover was transit. How is transit having to be redefined within your community transformations? All of the check marks. Do you want to comment on transit and what your
Sure.
vision is for
Sure.
that area or what you
Sure.
guys have done?
Sure. So we own some ground next to a light rail stop here, and we're it's on our list of of projects to get after, right? To again to create some housing at the light rail stop, to work with a number of regional partners to say, look, our bus system is inadequate. Our light rail system is inadequate to serve folks, right? We got to do a better job of connecting folks together in St. Louis right now. You really have to have a car,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
untenable for a lot of families, and unrealistic for a lot of families as well. So we're trying to step into that space as well. Just like so much of our work, Katie, it's just about capital, right? How do we secure enough capital to get the work done?
Let's talk about capital for a minute. You've invested millions over time, h housing, education, economic development, all of the tracks we've been mentioning here. If somebody is listening to this podcast, we feature best practices nationwide, and they're thinking, "How do we get into the game on a long-term comprehensive scale like you guys have?" Talk about how you've been able to secure that level of funding because I am sure it was no small feat. I'm sure it is your wish list on what you want to do is still bigger than your ability or your capital. So, how are you leveraging? How are you finding the financial support? Try to give some tips for people who may want to replicate this.
Well, look, I mean, so many folks in our industry, know how to do this, right? It's about securing capital. It's about putting together a good project. It's about making the economics of the project work. It's about telling a good story, and it's about executing, right?
Right.
The more you execute, the more success you have. The more ability you have to go back and have more success. So again, stay after it, stay after it, stay after it. I think philanthropy has not done its role in community development. We've been a bit of a stepchild in the philanthropic world. The arts and higher education and babies and kittens and puppies have some audiences and some healthcare issues that are meaningful to families that have gotten a bulk of philanthropy's attention over the years. What we've been successful at, and I want to be more successful at it, is telling a story to philanthropy in addition to tax credit investors and in addition to lenders about the importance of the work that we are doing. That from our standpoint, if the St. Louis region, in our case, is going to be healthier, stronger, and everything that the people live here want it to be, we have to address the neighborhoods that have been left behind for far too long. And the only way to do that is through a comprehensive, intentional approach about how do you address the issues. Because there's no simple way to take a community that has been, abandoned for 30, 40 years of significant capital investment and turn it around a short election cycle, right? You have to be committed to it and recognize that. Look, all the literature says the only way place is going to get better is if you tackle all the things that make up healthy communities. It's this notion of our work in the housing space a lot. Like I'll speak to some of my peers who just do housing, and they look at me like I've lost my mind doing all this stuff, right? But at the end of the day, you don't have to do what we're doing, but you should be
Right.
connected to others who are doing this type of work in the place where you're developing your housing, as an example, right? Connect to somebody who's doing economic development, who's doing the health work, and who's working with schools, because all those things have to be in place if, again, your housing is going to be successful over time, and if the communities you work in will be successful over time. I would also say that don't be afraid to spend money on fundraising and marketing. So often we get told by folks that, oh, you shouldn't spend money on, that much money on marketing
Yeah.
and on fundraising. And my response is, look, the only way we're going to be able to secure the capital we need is by investing in our ability to raise that capital. And that's by, again, having a fundraising team and having a marketing team that can help tell our story. So again, I urge my peers, don't be smart, obviously, but don't be
Right.
afraid to get have a marketing budget that
Mhm.
allows you to have good storytelling, that could get you the media placements where you
Yes.
want to be, that could, again, have stories that can be used all over your social media platforms.
And I read that you've had about 175 million invested that you've raised and invested. Is that the right, metric there? Or is that how much you guys are, tallying?
That's probably higher at this point. So, that's both in, again, all the real estate development as well as all the human service delivery.
Right,
So our
right.
our annual budget, again, is around operating budget is around 20 million. So that doesn't include, all the real estate development work, right? That's balance sheet stuff. So again, we're intentional about trying to again get to scale. We're convinced that what we're trying to do is replicatable. We just
Uh-huh.
have to prove the model out, and the way we prove the model out is scale. So
Mhm.
we're doing a lot of wonderful things, but it's just not enough given the
Right.
scope of the challenges that our community faces in
Mhm.
this moment. So how do we again get more capital to deploy, to execute well, and then to have the kind of results where we're going to see increase in property values, which means increase in tax base, which means more money for schools, more money for public safety. How do we
Right,
increase
right.
the economic development projects that are here so people have the kind of things that are important to them? They have a grocery store to shop at, they have restaurants to sit down at, they have movie theaters to have some entertainment, they have all the things that they
Mhm.
want to live their best possible lives. So we're convinced we're
Yeah.
doing the right kind of work. We just have to get to scale.
Yeah. You mentioned property values, property taxes. Have you seen the, graphs? Do you have a number about the actual value that has increased over time? Do you have metrics on that you wanna share?
So because our footprint is relatively large, we have a couple that are kind of more micro in nature, right? So, in one community where we've done a lot of the economic development work and a fair amount of housing work over the last 10 years, average sales price of homes by square foot has gone up 338%, and crime has gone down 42%. Right. So again, we
Okay.
know we know those are in direct correlation to the work we're doing along with our
Mhm.
community partners. So again, this is not rocket science. It's just really hard to take a place that again that has been left behind and abandoned to try to turn it around. So we're absolutely confident we're doing the right kind of work. We also just formed a partnership with Missouri's largest home builder. Um, and they're in our
Oh,
community now, and typically, big home builders aren't working in places where we work,
nice.
right? Because the
Yeah,
math doesn't make sense. So we've been able to
yeah.
forge a partnership with a local foundation that's rolling money through us. We're buying the property, we're clearing the title, and we're doing the site prep, and then we're handing the pad ready site to the home builder. So
Okay.
they built their first home on a block that's 4 blocks from our movie theater and food hall, on the same block where we have 5 rentals. And they built their first single family home. Did not put a sign in the yard. Our homes were valued county valuation at around 120 to 130,000. Their home, while bigger than our homes, without putting a sign in the yard, sold for 250,000. So we are
Okay.
thrilled with the possibility of, again, bringing more homeowners to the community, more stakeholders,
Yeah.
increasing valuation writ large, which means that all the neighbors have greater wealth because their biggest asset, their home, is worth more, and we have more money for schools, more money for public safety. I have another 50 lots that we're putting through quiet title work and other prep work, doing the surveying. I got to work with the city on subdividing lots and combining lots and doing a whole bunch of other stuff, and that's our role and that's our job, to kind of again make that happen so we can get this builder to
Mhm.
stay interested and stay excited about working with us.
Is there something that has surprised you the most, like either positively or negatively, when you go into a project or when you go into a certain quadrant or something? Any generalizations there that you kind of go, oh, here we go again. I've got a rule book for how we handle this, or, or are there things that just like shock you and surprise you that are issues or aren't issues, I guess?
So I'll give you the hardest thing that we do, and then I'll give you some positive stuff.
Okay.
The hardest thing is public education.
Okay.
uh we're on our, I think, our fifth superintendent in 12 years. That's problematic. That
Yep.
doesn't
Yep.
continuity
You
of
have to
leadership
start all over again, don't you?
is really important. And there's still not, in our estimation, a full understanding of you can have the best teachers, the best curriculum, the best buildings, but if kids and their families are still struggling, you're gonna have limitations on how well the kids can do, academically. It
Right.
just is what it is, right? It doesn't mean kids can't learn, teachers can't teach. It just means the context of the classroom, of the building, and of that child's life make it so unbelievably difficult. So we just need more people to understand if we can strengthen families and strengthen neighborhoods, schools are gonna get better. But we've not made that kind of courageous commitment to again really invest in people and place. We're confident that if we do that, things will get better across multiple platforms, not just the education space. The other thing, Katie, that is still so absolutely true 32 years in, the folks we serve are just like everybody else. They want a better life for themselves and for their kids, and they want to work for it. Again, there's so many stigmas or perceptions or kind of wrong narratives about folks in community and families who again need a little bit of help along the way. I'm amazed at the resilience, that the commitment of so many families to forge a better life for themselves and for their kids, and all they're chomping for and wanting is the opportunity for that better life.
Right.
And if you give them a little bit of support, they do amazing things.
Mhm.
So again, we're 32 years in. Sometimes I get asked, how can I do this for this long? Isn't it hard? And the answer is, yeah, it's really hard. But I know what we're doing makes a difference. Right where I'm standing to my left is where kids walk to and from a local school, and they're my motivation because they still deserve better. Us adults need to serve them better so their dreams and their aspirations can come true.
Mhm. I read about an initiative called Once and for All that you're doing. Explain what that is and mm, explain what the community response has been to this particular initiative.
Again, this is back to my earlier statement about kind of, telling your story, right? So
Uh-huh.
once and for all, as the name implies, is about our region. Like once and for all, can we invest in the people and places that have been left behind?
Mhm.
Obviously, it's supposed to have double meaning, right? Everybody should be included in this, and too often in community and regions, not everybody is included in the prosperity. So we wanted to tell a big story, so we created Once and for All campaign to help us raise another 200 million to continue the work, and really excite philanthropy in town, excite investors in town, get the public sector to get behind us in a bigger way than they have, and again to tell the story that if St. Louis is going to be everything that we want it to be, we can't leave so many people behind, and that's what
Mhm.
we've done here, and quite frankly, it's true all across the country. Lots of places have and people have been left behind, and again, we're not gonna be successful unless we give people, again, the equity of opportunity. Remember, these aren't handouts and freebies. These are, here's an opportunity to live a better
Uh-huh.
life. Now you have to be committed and do your part. Work hard. We know systems don't work very well frequently, and we're gonna help you navigate through and around systems, but again, we need you to do your part, and we're gonna be here for you, and we're gonna support you along the way. And the results have been, again, some of that 175 that's already in the door is because of that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's a bigger story that, we're getting foundation support, we're getting individuals to support us, right? Individuals give, 75% of all the philanthropic contributions in the country. And a very scant small percent of that comes to community development. So
Uh-huh.
we've been doing a good job at getting in front of individuals, using our board and other contacts we have to tell our story, to get people to come out. Come get in my car and drive around me. Let me show you the community, right? The good
Yeah.
stuff we've done, and quite
Right.
frankly, the many challenges that still exist.
Mhm.
I never sugarcoat, the story because it's real, right? There are still many challenges that need to be addressed, even though we've done a lot of work. It's just not yet enough, and it's not at scale. And again, we just need folks to say, look, if you want to see real change, finally, if you want to, after decades of billions of dollars going to poverty alleviation that has not worked, here we believe is the way to do it. Not simple nor quick, but this is the way to get it done. As a matter of fact, it's the only way to get it done because we've tried other methodologies and they've all failed terribly.
Yeah. So if you could dream and pull in one large project, like you this is your dream to land This is your Super Bowl win. What would that project be for you?
Uh, Kid, it wouldn't be one project because not
Mhm.
one project is going to get us here. But here, a quick aside. Another thing that we're a part of is redoing a golf course in our community.
Okay. Wow.
Right. So again, not many community development folks do golf courses, right? But this was a
Right.
this is one of the oldest public courses west of the Mississippi River, and it was in jeopardy of again going under and going fallow. So if you can imagine a whole golf course going fallow and what that
Mm,
does to a place, right?
yeah.
So we worked with the St. Louis Metropolitan Golf Foundation to keep this course. We leased the course from a local university who kind of took it over when the original operators kind of threw up their hands and said we can't do it anymore.
Mhm.
So we leased it for 2 years to keep it afloat, and then we helped raise the money to buy the course from the university. And then a guy named Jack Nicholas agreed to redesign the course for us, which is absolutely fantastic. So next October, it's going to reopen.
Wow.
Again, uh,
That's amazing.
that is amazing. And like the movie theater, we're going to keep the greens fees affordable so people in the community can still play there. It's
Yeah.
going to remain a public course,
Yeah.
and it's going to remain again available to community, and it's going to be again a wonderful thing. That's a great project as an example, right? That's not going to turn the community around. So when I think
Right.
about like if we got a large investment, what would I do with it? Um,
Yeah.
it would be to look at all the different spaces and places that we operate, from housing to education to health to economic development. And I would say, where can we get the biggest bang for the buck? Where can we put these dollars? And it doesn't have to be one place, right? It may be I need to shore up some of our economic development work because guess what? It's really hard. You're in a low income community. We have inflationary challenges. Um,
Yeah.
you know, who knows what the world's gonna hold for us in the next several years, right? In terms of what happens in community, right? So that may be a place we want to put it. We may want to do more owner occupied rehab. I may want to double the amount of staff I have in the school buildings because 15 is not enough to serve the over 3,000 kids in the school system, right? So more work to be done across the spectrum. So I wouldn't do one project. I would say where do I strategically, given the multiple platforms that we
Okay.
operate at, how can I best use those dollars to have the biggest bang for the buck and then leverage the living hell out of it?
We've talked about a lot of platforms, a lot of topics here, a lot of initiatives that you're working on. Before we close out here, um, can you highlight one that we haven't covered? One that you are just particularly proud of or fond of?
So one that we haven't talked about, and it's really more unique to St. Louis than a bunch of other regions. So in our geography, there were originally 24 small little municipalities, which makes no sense. But the guys who are mayors and council people now didn't create the system; they inherited it. So every month for over a decade, we've met with 12 to 18 of the mayors, finding ways for them to work together. They are small; they have limited staff capacity. So we de facto are kind of adjunct municipal staff. So we've helped with collective buying power on trash collection, on street repairs, on housing demolition. We partnered with them on suing the state of Missouri on some things that were unfair to communities like ours, and went all the way to the Missouri Supreme Court and won. We've helped them focus on a number of things, including this August 17 different communities are joining to create a transportation development district. A TDD, we paid for the law firm to put all that together. We staffed it to get all the ordinances, to do all the logistics of making that happen. It's again this idea of being in relationship with community. So again, these mayors are de facto community leaders in a very small kind of way. They know their neighbors, they know their community well, they trust us, they believe in us, and they allow us to lead in some ways when we don't have any power, but they trust us enough to say, "Will you please help us make our community better and help us tackle the things that we need to tackle?" So I take great pride in knowing that we built those relationships over time. That people trust my staff to again listen to their voice, to be a good partner, and try to again help make the place they call home everything that they want it to be.
Mhm. Well, you guys are doing great work there. I It's been a little bit since I've been into your neighborhood. I'll make
Come back
another
out and visit,
visit.
Katie. Come back out and
I'll
visit.
And I'll make another visit. So it was a pleasure when we worked with you over the last kind of projects. You guys are doing great work. Again, I've been talking with Chris Krehmeyer, the president and CEO of Beyond Housing. And we just wish you all the luck as you guys keep pushing forward. And we're very honored to highlight you here and what you guys are doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Appreciate it.